What's up, everyone? I'm James Lynch, and this is my stock report for UFC Vegas 93, taking a look at the biggest winners and losers from the event, and the thumbnail always gives it away. My biggest stock riser, bit of a weird win, but we got to mention it just because it's a main event, and that is Tatsuro Taira getting the win over Alex Perez. Now, I know this ended in an injury, but at the end of the day, this is going to be a main event win here for Taira. Big step up in competition. I know he was favored in this fight, but again, when we got a young prospect like this, who the UFC is clearly trying to build up, at the end of the day, it's going to look like a TKO win. I mean, how many fights have we had that have ended by injury and people never really bother to go look back on it, right? So that's how we're going to sort of view this one as well. Again, I know people will remember as far as like betting his next fight and all that stuff, but I just mean the optics of it. He ends up getting a win here. He's going to most likely get a ranked opponent, similar to where Perez was in this spot. So at the end of the day, he's the biggest winner on this card, in my opinion, because he was the main event. Like I said, it's flyweight. We know how wide open that division is. Steve Erceg, 3 fights in the division, getting a title shot. This is big here for Taira. So at the end of the day, he is my biggest stock riser on this card. Not a ton to take away from this event. Not one of the stronger UFC cards, but as far as my biggest stock riser, has to be Taira. Okay, my next biggest stock riser on this card is actually going to be Lucas Almeida. So he was an underdog in this fight. If you look here on the odds, Cuamba was minus 200, so he's about plus 165. Not that he has like a lot of stock in general, it's just like he wasn't expected to win this fight, and I thought he put on a pretty good performance here against a fighter, like I said, he was sort of being counted out with. 33 years old, again, coming into this fight, back-to-back losses. If he had lost this fight, he'd be out of the UFC, so that alone puts his stock up, because most likely he's going to get another fight here, although by the looks of it here, it looks like the 4-fight deal might be up. Don't know if he re-signed before this or they're going to look to re-sign him, but either way, coming off a type of performance that he had, I think definitely rises his stock in the division and might keep him around in the UFC a little bit longer. So again, Lucas Almeida, one of my other big stock risers on this card. Okay, and the last one, got to mention him here, and got a performance of the night, Brady Hiestand. This is a big win for him. Going into this fight, I had this fairly even. I thought they were both kind of in the same spot, him and Garrett Armfield, both young up-and-coming bantamweights. But for Hiestand to go out there and finish Armfield, very impressive here. 25 years old. I think we forget how young he is. Of course, a protege of the of Michael Chiesa over there in Spokane, Washington. So Hiestand, good to see him continue his winning ways here. Since that, he is, since the loss to Tercios a couple of years back, he's now won 3 in a row. He was another big stock riser on this card. Big things ahead here for Brady Hiestand, especially getting the finish. Like I said, it was fairly even as far as the fight went, but I thought Hiestand getting the finish here, really building up his stock. And then just 2 others I wanted to mention as far as stock risers. Miles Johns, this was a big win over Douglas Silva de Andrade. I saw some people picking Douglas in this fight. I thought Johns won. I know Johns himself has come out and said not too happy with the performance, but hey, listen, you're beating a veteran like Silva de Andrade, who the fight prior to this just beat Cody Stamann. That's good for Miles here. 15-2. I think Miles is one of the more underrated guys in the weight class here. So really big win there for Miles Johns. Then another honorable mention, just have to throw it out there because a lot of people weren't giving him a shot. And that's Weston Wilson. He gets the win over Jeka in this fight. Good for him. Weston Wilson hadn't had a single UFC win in his career. Big underdog here, plus 280. Got to mention him on here as well, just because he did get the upset in this fight. So Weston Wilson, will the UFC re-sign him? Probably not at his age at 35, but either way, good way for him to go out there and get the victory there. So got to talk about Weston Wilson. Okay, let's look at the biggest stock droppers on this card. And again, this was a bit of a trickier card because, again, not a lot of name value on this card, right? I mean, it was a good card, but not the type of card that you're revolving your whole schedule around to watch. So the biggest stock dropper, in my opinion, was Garrett Armfield. Now, look, he wasn't that big of a favorite going into the fight. I think he was like minus 195 going in. Why don't I check, James? That would be a lot easier instead of just rattling off things at the top of my head. What was he going in? Yeah, it was about minus 200. So again, he was expected to win this fight. Remember the fight previously, big win over Brad Katona in Canada, taking him out at UFC 297. For him to go in here and get finished, it's tough, right? Because he had a nice 2-fight win streak prior to that. Again, the winner of this fight was sort of moving up the rankings. He doesn't pass his test against Brady Hiestand. Back to the drawing board there for Garrett Armfield. Again, there wasn't a lot of name value on this card. So as far as picking a biggest stock dropper, not that Armfield had a ton of stock going in, but again, we're talking about a guy who's favored in this fight and he gets finished. That's not a good look. So his stock has definitely dropped. The other guy I mentioned already was Jeka, losing his fight. This is a tailor-made fight for him to win. Big favorite going in, like I mentioned there, 29 years old. I think they expected a little bit from him here. Obviously being from Indonesia, he's someone they can build, and coming off a win over Lucas Alexander in his last fight. So he is now 1-2 in the UFC. That's not good. You got to beat a Weston Wilson if you want to stick around the UFC. I don't think we'll be seeing him much longer if he goes out there and has performances like that, especially getting finished in the first round. That's kind of tough too. Again, didn't have a ton of stock going in, but do have to mention that he was such a big favorite. He has to be here on our stock dropper list. And then the other one here, and again, this might be a bit controversial to people, Alex Perez, my other stock dropper. And listen, it's not because Alex fought bad. He didn't fight bad at all. In fact, I thought he won that first round. I think Alex Perez was looking good, and had the injury not happen, greater things ahead. But to suffer an injury like this in a main event, again, they're going to look at it as a loss. So at the end of the day here, Alex Perez is 1 2 3 4. He's 1-4 in his last 5. Unfortunately, that's the way it looks at it. Again, I know it's an injury, but injuries are part of wins and losses. So ultimately, Perez's stock has dropped just because had he beat Tyra, he's going to be continuing in the spot he was at, which is, getting back to that title shot or getting back to contention here. So for him to lose, doesn't matter if it's an injury or not, he is at the back of the bus, so to speak, with that loss. So again, I don't think he fought bad at all. I thought he fought really well. Just the injury obviously puts him as a bit of a setback. It happens to fighters, right? We've seen a number of key fights where the fighter ends in an injury here. So Perez's stock drops as well. And that's pretty much it for this card, guys. Like, there isn't a whole lot, like I said, to take away from this event. We got some bigger events coming up here. Obviously, the time we're recording this, we've got Whitaker and Ikram coming up. I'll be doing a preview of that on Monday. And then we got UFC 303, which, went through a number of changes, but is still a pay-per-view, a very big card as well. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Just to do a quick recap here for everyone here. My biggest stock risers, Tyra, Almeida, Hiestand, with honorable mentions to Miles Johns and Weston Wilson. And then on the biggest stock droppers, we've got Garrett Armfield, we've got Jeka, and we got Alex Perez. And again, weird fight in the main event, but optically, Perez has a loss, Tyra has a win. That's how you kind of have to look at it here. So what I want you guys to do, because every week I do these videos and I get people coming, I don't agree with you. Okay, that's fine. Tell me what your top 3 are. Who are your top 3 stock risers? Who are your top 3 stock droppers? Would love to hear from you. Every now and then I do miss some things. So maybe you feel strongly about a fight or a fighter and you think that should be included. Let me know in the comments. Like I said, I'm more than happy to discuss this with you guys. But just, it's very easy to come on here and say, well, I don't agree, or that opinion sucks. No kidding. Anyone can say that. That's very easy to do, but I would like to hear your analysis on this card and who you think some of the fighters are that are going to be going on to greater pastures as far as the stock risers and the stock droppers as well. The guys that, like I said, are, missing a step too. Again, looking at this card top to bottom, not a lot to sort of take from in terms of performances. I know Fernandez and Jadice had a good fight as well, but again, not a lot of stock sort of going into this card, you know what I mean? So it's hard for me to put them on the stock list. Even a guy like Nate Maness, I know people say, oh, great performance, but Nate was a huge favorite in this fight. I can't put him on. It's not like his stock rose a ton because he was supposed to win that fight, right? So this is where it's kind of slim pickings on a card like this. Normally I have you guys have seen these videos every week. Normally I have 3 easy stock risers, 3 easy stock droppers, and then I have a bunch of honorable mentions. I don't even have that for this card really, just because there wasn't a lot of name power on this event. So like I said, let me know in the comment section below what your 3 biggest stock risers are and who your 3 biggest stock droppers are. Would love to hear from you. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, at Lynch on Sports. I'm posting content on this channel every day. So guys, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.